pray, kneeling low, hear what we say. Freedom calls in every tone. Faith is built on hearts of stone. Vibes so raw, can't hide the truth. Words so sharp, they cut right through. Real talk for the soul's appeal. Prayers rise up, the wounds they heal. Lift our voices to the sky, a righteous perspective high. On this path we won't back down, for the Father wears the crown. Each step brings another fight. Breaking chains, we're seeking light. Voice of power won't be tamed. With His love, we're never shamed. Lift our voices to the sky, a righteous perspective high. On this path we won't back down, for the Father wears the crown. From the ashes we shall rise. Hope is found deep in our eyes. Every word a battle cry. With the Father none deny.
What's going on, ARP family? Happy Monday to you guys, man. I hope you all had a great weekend. Hope you all enjoyed the weekend. Hope you guys had a blessed and safe weekend. And I appreciate you guys pulling up this morning. It is Monday morning, May 19th. We're a little more than halfway through this month of May. I'm telling you, these weeks, they fly by. Man, it's just crazy, man. I hope you guys enjoyed the show on Friday, the panel show. You know, shout out to the guests that pulled up, man. Jason from Dear World Christian and Crystal Beyond Labels and Mika, Pop Culture Mika or Mika from Red Cup Talk or Red Cup Talk with Mika. I could be wrong on that. Hopefully I'm not. You know, shout out to Aaron from the Freedmen's Network, Minister Denzel. My guy Chris from the Chris Highland Show. It was a really, really good show, man. Hopefully I didn't miss anybody. I don't think I missed anybody. I hope I didn't. But really, really nice show, man. Really good show on Friday. And you know, hope you guys enjoyed that. Shout out to Redefine Queen. Appreciate you pulling up this morning. First person in the chat, first thing this morning, 8:44 a.m. Good morning, ARP fam. Thank God for another blessed day. Yes. Yes. What's going on, Lori Addison? How's it going this morning? What up, Eric Smith? How's it going this morning? Appreciate you pulling up this morning. PK Krillin, appreciate you pulling up. What's up, Ken Long? How's it going this morning? Yeah. Said work's been crazy. Haven't been on for a minute, but appreciate you pulling up this morning. Thank you very much. What's up, Larry Montgomery? How's it going this morning? Raven, appreciate you pulling up. What up, Zephyr K9 and LJ Taylor? Hope all is well with you guys. Shout out to the Blues. What's up, Nelly? How you doing this morning? What up, Coaster? How's it going this morning, brother? Hope all is well with you. JJ O'Hara. And who else we got up in here this morning? Billboard Builds. Appreciate you pulling up. Is it KB Dad 84 out of Oregon? Appreciate you pulling up this morning as well. AK Bauer, appreciate you pulling up this morning. Said it's chilly out in PA. Huh, interesting. What's up, Leonardo? How's it going this morning? San Diego, California in the house. Brian Gable said he's checking in from Cabo on vacation. Okay. He had to flex on us real fast. Shout out to you, man. Enjoy yourself. Be safe down there, man. What's up, Playboy Billy? How's it going this morning, brother? Hope all is well with you. Hope all is well. We're going to get the show started, man. We're not going to go through and shout out everybody today, but I wanted to spend a little bit of time, make sure I show love, to my folks in the chat. If you haven't done so already, please make sure you hit that like button for me. We got a pretty good show today. I don't think today's show will be as long as it was on Friday. And actually last week, man, we had a multitude of really, really good shows, and they were fairly lengthy. I don't think today will be that, but we do have a good amount to discuss today. And I do appreciate you all pulling up. What's up, Louise? How you doing this morning? Baltimore sister. What's up, Mark Galvin? How's it going this morning, brother? Hope all is well with you. Again, make sure you all hit that like button for me if you haven't done so already. Super thanks will stop the show. Super chats will stop the show. Anybody that gifts or joins the ARP family, that will stop the show. You all will be acknowledged as well. Appreciate the love and support. I appreciate everybody that supports this channel. Shout out to those that support the channel via Cash App, via Buy Me a Coffee as well. Definitely appreciate that. And, appreciate you guys. PK Curlin says, we love the long shows, brother. I'm glad y'all do. I know last week we had one that went almost for 3 hours, which is just crazy. It was like, wow, 3 hours. And, we had a plethora of people that actually stuck around for the entire 3 hours and chopped it up with us, which was awesome. And we had people call in. We had a 2-hour show on Friday, which I thought was awesome. It's always good, when you get good people on, that want to have, really solid conversations. And we don't always have to agree, right? I think Aaron came on and I think we agreed a lot. And there were some disagreements there. But I think that's important, man. I think civil discourse is it's really good. We don't live in echo chambers, and we all, are critical thinkers, on this side of things. And I appreciate people coming in and voicing their opinions, based on their beliefs and their experiences, their life experiences, man. So I appreciate that. I don't like to live in these echo chambers. I just don't. But I appreciate everybody that did pull up and enjoyed the shows last week. We're going to get into it. James Landon said, I'm glad it's ARP and not AARP. I know somebody was like, AARP I was just like, nah, it's not ARP. Just take one A off. What's up, Natural Beauty out of Louisiana? Appreciate you pulling up this morning, sister. Hope all is well with you all down there. Let's get the show started, man. Let's get the show started. Like I said, hit that like button. Super chats will stop the show. Super thanks will stop the show. Hater Evan out of Aberdeen, Maryland. That's not too far away from me. Shout out to you, brother. Appreciate you pulling up. Let's get the show started. Gotta love it. Gotta love it, huh? So we got to talk about, what broke over the weekend. Former president, our 46th president, Joe Biden, has been diagnosed with prostate cancer. That is the word on the street now. And, it's interesting because, there's a statement here from I believe this is the personal office of the former president. And it says that last week on Friday, Biden was diagnosed with prostate cancer, characterized by a Gleason score of 9 with a metastasis to the bone. Excuse me. And now I want to make one thing clear here. there's not many people with whom I disagree on politics more than I disagree with Joe Biden. Not just his administration, but pretty much really his career. But having said all of that, we would never wish ill on any of our fellow Americans, presidents alike, whether we, disagree with them or not, right or left. He's still a president. He's still someone that has served this nation. And, this isn't something that I would, wish on anyone, especially cancer, which is it's a brutal disease, and a Gleason score of 9 indicates a highly aggressive form, and metastasis to the bone means it's spread beyond the prostate at this point. And but here's the thing that I think is somewhat, I guess, troubling is that we saw this tweet from a physician, that reads here. This is the tweet here. Let me pull this up for you guys. You had this tweet, that came out from this physician, that basically says that prostate cancer is the easiest cancer to diagnose when it first starts, and to watch it progress to the bone, I don't know, man. The PSA blood test show the rate the cancer cells, or the rate cancer cells growth, and for even with the most aggressive form, it is a 5 to 7 year journey without treatment before it becomes, metastatic. So what this means is that, it would be malpractice for this patient to show up and be, first diagnosed, with this disease, in May of 2025. It just seems like it is probably highly, highly likely that he had been carrying a diagnosis, of prostate cancer throughout his White House tenure, and the American people were uninformed. That is the concern, so they're saying that, this prostate situation, prostate cancer, it doesn't just appear overnight, especially at stage 5. And remember, when Biden 2 years ago said that he had cancer, I don't know if you guys recall this, but 2 years ago, he had stated something of the sort.
And because it was a 4-lane highway that was accessible, my mother drove us, and rather than us be able to walk. And guess what? The first frost, you know what was happening? You had to put on your windshield wipers to get literally the oil slick off the window. That's why I and so damn many other people I grew up have cancer. And why for the longest time, Delaware had the highest cancer rate in the nation. And because it was a 4-lane highway,
it could have been a gaffe, it could have been a gaffe, but, given everything that we know, about the massive cover-up surrounding Biden, could it be possible that they knew this the entire time? And we don't know for sure. We probably won't ever know for sure, but stage 5, and you just found out when you are the president, who, I'm assuming goes through multiple physicals they have more than just an annual physical. Could it be possible that, they've been covering this up for years and still had him run and still had him go out there and run? Could this be the case? But this brings me to a larger issue. It brings me to a larger issue, man. There's more breaking news from over the weekend. There's a new, audio that leaked, and it's considered a bombshell. And we'll get to that in a second, but let's set the stage real quickly. Let's set the stage real quick. Back in 2023, Special Counsel Robert Hur was appointed to investigate Joe Biden's handling of classified documents. The counselor's job was to decide if the president willfully mishandled classified documents, meaning knowingly and with the, prohibited intent. And to make that call, he had to analyze Biden's state of mind. Could he remember, where he put those files? Did he recall conversations about sensitive national defense information? And crucially, how would a jury perceive his memory and mental sharpness if this went to trial? So the report actually lays out in black and white that the evidence, and Biden himself, forced that discussion of memory into the pages. And in his interview with the Justice Department investigators, Biden claimed that he just found all the classified stuff downstairs in his Delaware garage, but then couldn't recall saying it. And he said he didn't remember ever finding any classified documents after leaving the vice presidency. He had no memory of how the files labeled Afghanistan ended up in boxes in that same garage. The special counsel makes this clear. These weren't minor lapses. They were fundamental gaps in recollection that went right to the heart of the willfulness question. And that's why those pages on memory exist in the report. They weren't, they weren't like, I guess, maybe, mandatory. These are essential, these are essentials, I guess, what do you call it? Essential documents or something along those lines. And then the report goes on to conclude that while Biden willfully retained the disclosed and classified materials, criminal charges weren't warranted because Hur described Biden as an elderly old man, with some memory lapses. So basically, he didn't bring up charges because he just didn't think that, Biden, was old enough to handle it. He said that his memory or mental capacity, has been, too diminished for him to stand trial. And Biden himself obviously pushed back on this, insisting that his memory was fine and that, he knew exactly what he was doing. And the Democrats, the propagandists and the media, they all went into meltdown mode. How dare you suggest that there's any issues with Biden? And for years, they treated concerns about Biden's mental agility as crackpot or conspiracy theories. You remember, when they had that, that rally, out there, I believe it was out in California when what's his name? Obama had to grab him by his hand and walk him off. And they told us that these are cheap deep fakes or something along those lines. You guys recall KJP saying that, these are right-wing lies. These are the things that, that they said. And I mean, they've been lying to us for a long time. Now, those of us on this side of things, man, we know what a lie looks like. We know what it sounds like. We know what it smells like when we see it, hear it, smell it, but there's a lot of people out there that believed it.
Tape right now, because I'm about to tell you the truth. And F you if you can't handle the truth. This version of Biden is the best Biden ever.
She knows so long as she was 9.
In fact, I think he's better than he's ever been.
President Biden has a photographic memory. His understanding and mastery of a complicated geopolitical situation, remarkable.
He is sharp, intensely probing, and detail-oriented and focused.
Jackie, are you here? Where's Jackie? I didn't think she was going to be here.
I was sitting, 2 feet from him across the table, and he was, intense.
Have trouble walking sometimes? Yeah, so did FDR. He wanted GD war.
But he's totally focused. He's very sharp.
They say he's sharp in meetings and so on.
Very lucid, very well informed. Biden is stately, and he comes with gravitas. There hasn't been, as far as I know, a single claim that Biden made a mistake. Ageism is an issue. Americans have a rich history of holding people's physical characteristics against them. Okay, you can ask African Americans.
He's older. That doesn't mean that he is unfit, and there's a lot of ageism there.
Now, this age attack, this
obsession by the right.
Joe Biden may not be able to speak for himself the way that he used to.
They want to think to take on government if we get out of line, which they're talking again about, and that's him lying around.
I think people should be speaking up for Joe Biden.
Americans and reporters in the media are just judging him by a physical appearance, and it's horribly unfair. Age is an asset.
He showed exactly how with it he is.
The flip side of this coin is that he has a tremendous amount of wisdom and experience.
Have you heard any concerns from anyone who has met with President Biden about him seeming a little slower?
No.
More wild speculation from a bunch of people who have probably never been in a room with Joe Biden and certainly don't have medical degrees that I'm aware of.
You don't get paid for performance to be president. The job is not a job of endurance. I don't see Donald Trump out bike riding like Joe Biden.
It's the Hillary's email. All they have is that he's old.
He can clear a dementia bar, and that's probably a win.
The media are not fair, and they're getting less and less fair, and things are frightening. You have Wall Street Journal running a horribly sourced piece saying that Biden is unfit.
Dubious Wall Street Journal report about the president's acuity.
Shoddy story by the Wall Street Journal questioning Biden's mental fitness.
Wall Street Journal story had a lot of flaws, as you said. But Sinclair, they didn't do any original reporting. They didn't follow up. They didn't do any work.
The hero of the day is Hersh Goldberg Poland, and still, he is not here with us, but he's still being held by Hamas.
But a huge part of the Mueller report talks about Russian disinformation tactics. And one of the themes this election cycle is that Joe Biden is too old to lead. And so everyone is seizing upon this. And it is a classic disinformation tactic. And I think the best thing that we can do is to prepare the American people for this false narrative.
Now, a lot of these people in that clip are writing books, doing interviews. They're trying to get a bag off of this. This is crazy. Oh, man. And to be honest with you, I'm sure you could make a video a whole heck of a lot longer than that 3-minute video right there of these people just lying. So meanwhile, the Democrats, and their friends in the liberal media were actively covering up any serious reporting of his obvious decline. They were actively covering it up. Actively. And not just that, they criticized anyone who dared to bring it up. If you were on any of those networks, especially on MSDNC, if you were on that network and you called out the decline, the mental decline of Joe Biden during that time frame, you were going to, first off, you're probably not going to be on the platform again after that. But they're going to call you crazy. They were telling people, hey, don't believe your eyes. What you're seeing, it's not real. It's cheap fakes. They told you not to believe your lying eyes. And here's where it gets even more interesting. Despite the report being public, the audio of Her's interview with Biden remained under wraps until now. And over the weekend, that audio leaked, and it's causing major waves. The GOP Oversight Committee, among others, has been demanding its release for over a year, arguing it would shed light on Biden's mental acuity during his presidency. And now we're hearing it for ourselves. Let's take a listen. I don't know if you guys have had a chance to hear it, but I'm going to let this thing play out without any interruption, and we'll get back to the show.
We're living in Chambers Road, and there were documents related to the Penn Biden Center or the Biden or the cancer shot or your book. Where did you keep papers that related to those things that you were actively working on?
Well, I don't know. This is what, 2017, 18, that area?
Yes, sir.
Remember, in this time frame, my son is either been deployed or is dying. And so it was, and by the way, there were still a lot of people at the time when I got out of the Senate that were encouraging me to run in this period, except the president. They're not a mean thing to say. I mean, he just thought that she had a better shot of winning the presidency than I did. And so I hadn't at this point, even though I'm at Penn, I hadn't walked away from the idea that I might run for office again. If I ran again, I'd be running for president. And so what was happening though, what month did Bo die? May 30th, 2015. Was it 2015 he died? 2015. I think it's 2015.
I'm not sure the months are, but I think that was.
Yeah.
That's right, Mr. President.
And what's happened in the meantime is that Trump gets elected in November of 2017? 2016. All right. So, why do I have 2017 here?
That's when you left office, in January of 2017.
Okay. But that's when Trump gets sworn in,
Right.
January.
Right, correct.
Okay, yeah. And in 2017, Bo had passed, and this is personal. The genesis of the book and the title, Promise Me Dad, was I know you're all close with your sons and daughters, but Bo was like my right arm, and that was my left. These guys were a year and a day apart, and they could finish each other's sentences. And Bo, I used to go home on the train in the period that I was still in the Senate. Anyway, do you remember? There was pressure, not pressure. Bo knew how much I adored him. And this sounds, maybe this sounds so, everybody knew how close we were. There was not anybody in the world who wondered whether or not, anyway. And so.
Sir, I'm wondering if this is a good time to take a break briefly.
No, let me just keep going to get it done.
This is quite frankly, man, it's painful to listen to. Seriously, it's hard to listen to. You know, especially, you know, all the way. It was especially hard to listen all the way through, knowing that this man was supposed to be our sharpest national security decision maker. You know, and I mean, I knew the decline was bad. I think we all knew the decline was pretty bad, but man, this is I don't know if we all knew how bad it actually was. Seriously. It's worse than what a lot of us thought it was. I mean, there's no way you can listen to this and think that he should have been president. There's no way you could listen to that, you know, and think that he should have continued to be president, man. I mean, this is a cover-up of massive proportions, to say the least. Seriously. And in all honesty, this wasn't even a cover-up. Like, can you even call it that? Can you even call it a cover-up for real? I mean, we all knew it was very clear and obvious all along. But these people, they lied to us, man. They lied to us about it. But there was no way to cover this up, man. And it's bad. It's really, really bad when even the ladies over on The View, and yes, I'm talking about the ladies on The View, when they're going, like, hey guys, you didn't see this, you come on, man, y'all chose to run them again after all of this, seriously? So you mean to tell me as much power as the DNC has, no one can say, hey, bruh, we gotta, run this one term. Thank you. We appreciate you. You're going to go down. We can spit it to make you look like a great president. We're going to open this primary up and we're going to get somebody in for real that can run this nation. We're not going to do that with as much power as they have.
Do not want to revisit the election. Take a look at that.
Did you really not have any idea that he was not fit to serve a second term?
Casey, we're looking forward. We have the largest Medicaid cut in front of us. We have the whole federal
you're
government
facing all
at
of this
risk.
because you lost a presidential election. And
Look,
is that not Joe Biden's responsibility for deciding to run again?
We're looking forward.
That's it?
That's it.
What I can say is that we're not looking backward. We're going to continue to look forward because at this moment, we've got real problems that need to be addressed on behalf of the American people.
Are they beating a dead horse or what? Will avoiding the issue make people lose more trust in the Democrats and the media?
The Democrats' trust is shot right now. I don't think anybody believes a word that comes out of these people's mouths. I put out a video over the weekend, of Jasmine Crockett. She was on Colbert. Everything that came out of her mouth was a lie. Everything. And that the Democrat Party is in trouble when the ladies at The View start asking questions, they in trouble. When the ladies at The View start asking questions, they in trouble. But anyway, let's fast forward to today. And the Democrats are suddenly realizing that hold on for a second, the president's decline, it was a problem. Suddenly, you got a lot of these folks out here saying that, oh my gosh, you're clutching pearls and we knew something was off. Really? Y'all knew something was off? Lie. Again, I'm a firm believer. If these Democrats are talking, they are lying. Simple as that. I mean, this is a desperate attempt to save face, to rewrite history and to distance themselves from the mess that they created. They knew all along. All the people that were close to him, the Pelosi's, the Schumers, come on, man. Y'all not going to sit here, the Mayorkas, y'all not going to sit here and with a straight face lie to us and we're just supposed to believe y'all like we just some gullible groupies out there. They knew, and they knew all along. They saw the signs, the gaffes, the blank stares, the struggles with basic recall. They knew it. And these people chose to ignore it. And they chose to push him forward because power was more important than principles. These people were complicit. No amount of new books, or people coming forward is going to change that. Jake Tapper, the Alex Thompson's new book, The Original Sin, it lays bare how rapidly aging the president was. And he was propped up and how he was shielded and yes, actively covered up, for and by his own party. They revealed more than 200 off-the-record interviews. 200 off-the-record interviews. I wasn't going to read this book, but I got to. I'm curious. Off-the-record interviews. Most of these people are Democrats who wouldn't have gone on the record about this until votes were cast. And now, they're learning that Biden couldn't recognize George Clooney at a fundraiser, that he blinked on his own daughter's college move-in dates, that his gait had become so fragile, AIDS circled him, on the tarmac like a human spotters. They were talking about putting the man in a daggone wheelchair. And I have nothing against people that are in wheelchairs, but Y'all told us that the president was sharp, that he's on top of things, that he's strong, he's fit. And word on the street is that they had wheelchairs and things of that nature ready for him. And now, the crazy thing is that, a few months ago, these people on CNN, MSDNC, they were lauding Biden's every word. Jake Tapper himself was on air, was full-throated in his defense. We've checked the tape. There's no sign of cognitive decline. This is from Tapper. And now Tapper's co-written a book admitting exactly that decline and expressing shock that anybody ever doubted him. I mean, Tapper, Tapper the sellout, even aired a segment where he showed a clip of Trump calling out Democrats for hiding Biden's decline. Goodness gracious, man. You can't make this stuff up, man. These people do not care. They don't care. They don't care.
In my upcoming book with Alex Thompson, I'm not sure if you've heard of it, it's on Biden's decline. It's called Original Sin. The book and excerpts and reviews and such have resurfaced the conversation about age and President Biden's aging. And there's been a lot of talk about the unreleased as yet audio of Biden's 2023 interviews with Special Counsel Robert Hur. Those interviews, among other factors, led Hur and his team of prosecutors to conclude that while they thought Biden mishandled classified information, they couldn't successfully prosecute him because a jury would not convict, quote, a sympathetic, well-meaning elderly man with a poor memory, unquote. They didn't think they could get a conviction. Today, President Trump was asked whether he will release the audio of the tapes, which prior Attorney General under Joe Biden, Merrick Garland, had blocked from release.
That's up to Pam and the group. I haven't really looked into it. Look, everybody understands the condition of him. I know people that are 89, 90, 92, 93 years old that are literally perfect. But Joe was not one of them. And they did a lot of hiding.
Fact check, true. Joining us.
Hey, the hypocrisy off the charts with these people, man. Off the charts. And you know what? The American people are noticing. We've noticed all along. We talked about this almost all year last year. Well, until Biden dropped out. And we still kind of talked about it a little bit. But especially the first half of the year, we definitely talked about this. Excuse me. And we've all noticed it. This really just, it just perfectly captures just how unprincipled these people really are and the lengths that they will go for money and for power. And then there's another strategy coming, from our friends over on the left. Listen to this one. Some, propagandists out there in the media are now saying that Trump's DOJ released this tape just to embarrass Biden. Now imagine that. Thinking that the American people don't have a right to know whether the president was awake at the wheel or not. It's beyond insane. These people, they suck, man. They really do. These are some awful individuals.
And see what develops. Let me turn now, Peter, to the Biden special counsel Hur interview. Why release the full audio now? I mean, it's after the fact. And do we know how Axios got the tapes?
Well, the Trump administration decided to put it out, and they decided to put it out to take advantage of this news cycle because of the new book by Jake Tapper and Alex Thompson is coming out next week about Biden's, physical and mental decline in office.
Hang on, Peter. You're saying the Trump administration gave it to Axios?
Well, I don't know about Axios' sources, but I think it's very clear they're the ones who had access to it, and they have told our reporters that they plan to put it out there. So, the idea that it went to Axios first is not surprising, I suppose. But they've already made the decision they wanted to put it out there. The president himself has said he wanted this tape out there. Why does he want it out there? Obviously, he wants to embarrass his predecessor and undercut President Biden even further. We've had the transcript of this. We know the answers that were given or not given. We know that he struggled with memory lapses during this conversation. But obviously, hearing the tape is a different thing. It does emphasize and underscore just how much trouble he had in that interview and why Robert Hur, the special counsel, decided not to bring charges. Remember, Robert Hur said that he decided not to bring charges in part because the president seemed like a forgetful old man. And that would be hard to convince a jury that he knowingly violated the law. Well, how did he make that determination? He made it in part through this interview that we're now hearing through this audio tape. And therefore, hearing the audio tape does have a value in that sense to help us understand what Hur was evaluating.
So I'm curious your reaction, Natasha, to this audio and why it's being released.
I'd say this is unbelievable, but it's not. This is who they are. This is who mainstream media is. This is who the Democrat Party is. So you'd say, "Oh man, this is unbelievable," but no, this is who they are, and this is who they've shown themselves to be for quite some time, which is a lot of the reason why people have decided that they're no longer listening to these people for the news and for the truth, because you're not going to get it from these people. They never wanted us to know how bad it actually was. And frankly, it's criminal. We're talking about the most powerful country in the world here. And you know what? I've been saying, leaked audio, but let me take it back. It wasn't leaked. It was declassified and given to the public, and rightly so. I mean, just watch, man. We're getting very close to the next stage of a cover-up. And the cover up and ignore playbook. And why does this matter? It's in the past now, but mark my words. That's what the next talking point will be. It's the past. It's the past. They talked about it earlier, in a clip earlier. Hey, we're just going to move forward. We don't want to talk about it anymore. We're moving forward. We don't want to talk about it anymore. But what the real story here is that, and it's a sad one, it's not just Biden's decline, it was the collapse of the very institutions, that we trust to hold power accountable. When the press pretends not to see something, when party insiders decide to cover something up, when voters are ridiculed for raising legitimate concerns, democracy itself takes a hit. And we got to say no more to this. This can't be swept up under the rug. Democrats, won't regain any credibility by pretending none of it happened. They really do need a come to Jesus moment. They do. They need to own up to defending a man whose capacity they knew was suspect and apologize to the American people. Now, to apologize means that they have to admit that they did something wrong. Don't hold your breath on that. I highly doubt that these people, have it in them to apologize to the American people for lying to them. I highly doubt it. They're going to continue doing what they do, which is to lie. They're going to continue to do it. They're going to continue to do it. They're going to continue to lie to us. They're going to continue to, blame the Biden administration for lying to them. This is going to happen. They're going to put everything on them and say it wasn't us. We would have reported on it, but the White House said everything was fine. They said that everything was fine and everything was dandy. Biden is the liar, not us. And hey, it's not going to work. It's not going to work. The damage is done. But what comes next is even more important. If Biden was mentally and physically faltering, if aides feared, a wheelchair was needed, if top positions were, effectively run by deputies, then who was calling the shots? That right there is the billion-dollar question right there. If he was so out of it, who was actually running the show? Who was calling the shots? Who was really behind the desk signing the memos and briefing intelligence? Who was doing this? That's the question right there. And that's the question that we all deserve an answer to. And that's a conversation that none of the quote unquote cover-uppers want to have. They don't want to have that conversation. Were those pardons that were signed by AutoPen, was it legit? Did the president even know that this was happening? Did he know what he was signing? I mean, pardons are one of the most powerful tools, a president has. And if Biden wasn't cognitively capable to understand them, then what does that say about the legitimacy of those decisions? And let's just keep it real, man. The Democrats, man, they failed us. Point blank, period. It's just that simple. And now with the audio leak, the mask is off and we see them for what and who they are, which is a party more concerned with power than principle, more interested in saving face than facing the truth. So what's the takeaway here? The Biden audio leak is a wake-up call. It's a reminder that we can't trust those who lie to us, who hide the truth, who put their own interests above ours. The Democrats are trying to rewrite history, but the audio doesn't lie. It's out there. It's for all to hear, and it's changed everything. We should never take what these folks say on the left as face value, or mainstream media for that matter. You can't take it as face value. You just can't. You have to be skeptical of everything that they say. The American people deserved better. And it's past time that we demand it. It's past time that we demand it. And if they don't give it, hey, stop watching these people. MSDNC, I mean, a lot of people have been stopped watching them. Same thing with CNN. Stop watching them. Or when you do see the lie, post it and call it out. Post it and call it out, because there's too many people that watch these folks and believe that because they're on TV, they're telling us the truth. So they need to be called out. It needs to be put out there and say, hey, liar. Lie, 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 lie. It needs to be put out there. And in other news, the Democrats are imploding. Oh, man. There's a new poll out showing the president's approval ratings edging up again. And remember, just a few weeks ago, they were screaming that Trump was cooked. Oh, it's over with for him. It's over with for him. They were talking about how people were out here regretting their votes and the economy's in shambles and the tariff war is going to start a recession. Y'all remember that. And LJ, I'm with you on that. I mean, I watch CNN for Scott Jennings and for Shermichael Singleton. I think his name is Singleton or Singletary. And there's a few others, a few other conservatives that are on there. And then we also watch it just to hear the propaganda and the lies so we can call it out. Hear the propaganda and the lies and call them out. But when they were, all up in arms, talking about how bad things are about to get. Now, we also know that none of it actually materialized. Inflation is down. Everyone's, starting to want to make trade deals with us. That's happening. And overall, things are moving in the right direction. I don't know about you, but I do not regret my vote. I don't know about you, but I do not regret my vote. What we're seeing transpire in America is exactly what I voted for. It's exactly what I voted for. Things are going in the right direction. Things are going in the right direction. And the funny thing is this, even CNN, they were forced to admit it. Oh, man.
I think it's time for a bit of a reality check, right? We were going to late April. Donald Trump's approval rating, his net approval seemed to be falling. He seemed to be adios, amigos. People were writing his political obituary. He is rising from the dead. Look at this. Hello, Trump's net approval rating among voters. This is the Reuters Ipsos polling. Look at this. In late April, he was 8 points underwater. But look at where he was in the most recent poll among voters. He's up 7 points to a -1 point net favorability rating. This is not the picture I think a lot of people were thinking that we would be painting in late April. I think a lot of people expected his approval rating to keep dropping, but at least according to Reuters Ipsos, it's in fact rising.
Put this then
in a larger perspective, Harry.
Yeah, okay. So, this is just one poll, right? But let's take a look across an aggregate of polls. What are we seeing here? And I want to compare both to where Donald Trump is now versus where he was in late April, as well as where he was at this point in term number one. What you see is at -6 points, he is a little bit worse off than he is in the Ipsos Reuters polling, but he is considerably better than he was in late April when he was 9 points underwater. And more than that, look at this. He's nearly 10 points better than he was back in May 16th of 2017 in his first term. So what we see is Donald Trump's not just doing better than he was doing in late April of 2025. He's doing considerably better than he was doing at this point in term number one, about 10 points better than he was doing at this point in term number one.
In a vacuum, -6 isn't good, but in Trumpian terms, against himself, it's actually a pretty good position for him to be in politically compared to himself.
Exactly right. This is considerably higher than he has traditionally been.
So the big question here is why, Harry? Why did it bottom out? Why might it be rising?
Okay, why? Well, take a look at the chance of a recession. It's actually falling. The chance of a recession is falling. In late April, it was 60% according to J.P. Morgan. Look at where it is now. It's less than 50%. How about Goldman Sachs? You see the same thing. 45%, now falling to 35%. The bottom line is, it is the economy, the economy, the economy. As the chance of a recession has fallen, as the trade wars have kind of collapsed a little bit, at least with China, Trump trying to make a deal, we do see that I do think that the voters are responding to this, and therefore we're seeing Trump's approval rating going up.
The tariffs were really hurting him, and he backed off, and it may be helping him politically now.
Sometimes Donald Trump has some pretty good political instincts.
Harry, thank you very much.
Yeah, so while this is all happening, where does the Democrat Party stand at currently? 29%, I believe. If I'm not mistaken, I believe they're at 29% approval rating, which is below 30% in most polls. That right there is a disaster for our friends over on the left. So naturally, what do they do when they realize they're in trouble? Somebody in the chat. What do they do when the Democrats realize that they're in trouble? Take a guess. What do they do? What's the plan for these Democrats now that they realize, hey, we are in trouble? We're getting our tails whipped. Hey, they do what they do best, man. Pander. Uh-oh. You got to break out the panda bears. Yep, Democrats are back at it again. They're back at it again, calling for reparations. You got a lot of folks out there, and we got to talk about this. Because it's a movement that seems to never fade, but it also never goes anywhere. I don't know if you guys are familiar, but here in Maryland, there was a reparations bill that made it all the way to the governor's desk. There was a reparations bill that made it to the governor's desk. For those of you guys that are not familiar with who our governor is Governor Wesley Moore, Democrat, first black governor in the state of Maryland. They get a reparations bill to his desk. And he refused to sign it. Matter of fact, he vetoed the bill. What's going on, Aaron? Appreciate the $5 super chat, man. Peace to you, brother. Appreciate you. So Wes Moore, Democrat, gets a reparation bill, passes the delegates, passes the state Senate, gets to his desk, and he wasted no time signing and vetoing the bill. Again, Democrats doing what they do best, pander. They've realized that they are losing the black vote, either to just becoming independents, or there's a good amount of people that have decided that, hey, I will become a registered Republican, or more and more people are just saying, you know what, I'm not going to sign with either party. I'm going to go and be an independent. I have no problem with that at all. and we're going to evaluate the candidates from each side. We're going to evaluate the candidates appropriately. And hey, this is what they do when they feel like they are on the ropes. They know they have a card. They have one card that they play when they know that they are cooked, when they know they are in trouble. You got a coalition of far left progressives. They just reintroduced the Reparations Now resolution. The resolution calls for the federal government to allocate trillions of dollars. Yes, trillions with a T. We're 35, 36, 37 trillion dollars in debt. But, you know, we got our House of Representatives out there, you know, allocating for, you know, they're trying to, you know, they want trillions of dollars, you know, in reparations to be, you know, given to Black Americans to atone for chattel slavery, Jim Crow, you know, and the ongoing effects of, you know, other federal sanctioned discriminatory policies. Now, my friend, Dawn, who has a channel, Red Dawn Daily, she believes that there shouldn't be any reparations for slavery, but reparations for Jim Crow. Due to the fact that there are still people that are living in this nation that did deal with Jim Crow. I'd like to hear what y'all thoughts are, you know, on that. But yeah, there are some people out there that say, hey, well, it's a Jim Crow thing, you know, not necessarily reparations for slavery, but you know.
Against Black people. We are in a moment of anti-Blackness on steroids, and we refuse to be silent. We will not back down in our pursuit of racial justice. The antidote to anti-Blackness is to be pro-Black, and we will do it unapologetically. The United States government owes us a debt, and we need reparations now.
Dr. Silla says, and I'm going to put this out there, Dr. Silla says Africa should pay reparations. They sold us. There's a lot of argument there, you know, that some of this money should come from, you know, whether it's Ghana or Nigeria. I believe those are the two nations, maybe Ivory Coast or Cote d'Ivoire, you know, as they call it over there. But the enthusiasm. But let's talk reality here. It's a grift. It's a grift. President Barack Obama was in office for 8 years. 2 of those years, he could have literally did anything that he wanted to do. The conversation of reparations did not come up at all. Shout out to Aaron over at Freeman's Network. He says, it won't work for them. Hold up. It won't work for them. We've been on to them with those fake studies. Yeah, that's pretty much what it is. It's a fake study. You're right, bro. This is who they are. This is what they do. They don't have any intent on doing this at all. Sheila Jackson Lee, you know, we'll say rest in peace to her, but she would bring this up. The study. Oh, we got to do a study. Yeah, okay. Every time a reparations bill has been proposed and it would get to a governor's desk, it gets shot down. Same thing happened out in California. They bring this up just about every year, every other year, and it goes nowhere. Not under a Democratic House, not under a Democratic White House, certainly not under a Republican White House. It's not going to happen. And the Constitution, I don't know if it allows it. You can't write a line item check for descendants of slavery without running afoul of the Equal Protection Clause. Shout out to my guy Jeff over at It's Not Your Fault Recovery channel, Al-Anon Recovery channel. He says the KKK, Democrats, Civil War Democrats, anti-Black voting Democrats, Planned Parenthood Democrats, seems Democrats should pay the reparations. Prayers for Biden. Thank you for the $11 super chat. Thank you very much. But the reparation backers claim it's lineage based, not race based, but the legislation that they draft doesn't work that way. They never spell out who actually qualifies, what proof you need, or how you're going to overcome generational gaps in documentation, there's some challenges there. There's a lot of challenges there. You ask yourself, how many black families can trace unbroken paper trails back to 1865 or beyond? I don't know how many can. I know my family has. At least on one side, have been traced back to a plantation out in South Carolina. On the other side, I believe it's been traced back to a plantation out in Alabama. I think there is a way to go about doing it. I think there is, but how many people can actually do it? So there is I guess a lineage loophole that could exclude the vast majority of Black Americans while inviting endless legal challenges. And what about the white people that would be eligible for reparations? Because it only takes about 2 generations to flip a race of people. I know this to be true because, in my own family, my in-laws, there's a multitude of, biracial children out there, and they are now starting to have children. And one of them just had a kid, with a white woman. And you can't tell that the kids are that their grandmother is Black. You can't tell. So there's a lot of challenges, there that's going to come with that. And I'm sure there'll be a lot of people frustrated behind the fact that, like LeVar Burton, he found out that his great-great-grandfather was actually a Confederate soldier or something along those lines. I mean, you go back, you start tracing lineage back, man, there ain't no telling what you will find, to be honest with you. But the reality of it is, when it comes to the Democrats, they don't have any intent on actually doing this. They don't. They don't have any intent on actually doing it. This is a way to get Black folks back lockstep with them on the Democrat plan station. They don't have any intent on actually going through with any of this. This is a carrot stick type situation. And let's be honest, man. Honestly, most of it is really just political theater. Every time Sheila Jackson Lee or Cori Bush or Ayanna Pressley reintroduces a reparation bill, what do they really want? It's really about headlines. Progressive caucus demands trillions for Black America. They want donors to open up their wallets. And it's easy to stand on stage and latch on to centuries-old grievances, when you know full well that the proposal, it's dead on arrival. They know this. They don't have any intent. And the reality of it is this. You have people with a poor mindset, and it doesn't matter how much melanin they have. People with a poor mindset, you give them money, they're going to be broke, or they're going to be in a worse situation than they were in before they even got any money. So there are some things that need to happen. And if the Democrats actually really cared about closing the racial wealth gap, if they really cared about that, then let's talk about what actually works. Let's talk about what actually works. Black entrepreneurs, families and workers, they don't need another show vote on the House floor. Another show vote on the House floor that's not going to help Black people in this country. There's a lot of folks out there, they need financial literacy, affordable access to capital, and schooling that teaches hard skills, that embraces hard work, that embraces taking a risk, that embraces critical thinking. And most importantly, there is a full-on need for fathers at home. Full-on need for fathers at home. When 70+% of children in the Black community are born out of wedlock that don't have dads in their homes, money isn't going to solve that problem. We got a lot of folks, man, they need to learn how to live within their means. They need to learn how to budget. They need to learn how to save 10 to 20% of their income and invest in savings, and invest that money into diversified index funds. They need to know that nearly 93%, of American millionaires built their wealth through consistent saving and investing opposed to, inheritance or lottery tickets. That's real. 9 out of 10 millionaires in America are self-made. didn't come from a whole lot. Those are facts. That means that everyday people from everyday backgrounds can replicate the path. You don't need a reparation check for that. But of course, the Democrats, they don't want to teach people how to fish. That's not what they're interested in. They don't want to teach you how to go out there and get it for yourself. They don't want to allow you to learn how to fish. So they'll promise that they'll give you the fish so that they can keep you hooked. Keep you hooked. And some people will say, well, so what if they get the money and lose it? At least you gave it to them. I guess there's some truth involved there. But some of these people, how many of these people will be worse off than what they were? Because I mean, a poor mindset is a poor mindset. How many times we see athletes out there, yeah, they get millions, but they got a poor mindset and they are broke shortly after finishing. I mean, we're talking about they get generational money. Democrats, they don't want you to know how to get out here and get it for yourself and to make it on your own. They want to be the ones to come in and save you. And that's why they're not interested in showing you how to fish. They're interested only in giving you something or telling you that they'll give you something so that you will continue to vote for them. Because who doesn't like free stuff? And let's ignore the obvious fact. Just how dangerous, this reparation rhetoric is for social cohesion. And when you stand up and tell every black household you're owed a multi-trillion-dollar debt, you're effectively telling, the rest of the taxpayers in the country that, hey, you're immoral, you're complicit for not ponying up the bread. That doesn't help, us as Americans start to come together. They don't want that either. They don't want any type of real unity within the masses of the people either. And ultimately, that's what, a lot of your race baiters want. They want the divide. They want this. They need us divided. And this is the type of rhetoric that does just that, unfortunately. It's really sad.
Repair. So let's make it clear. There is a debt that does exist. This country has taken so much from black folks and has a debt it owes because for over 400 years into this very day, this country has stolen black labor, black lives, black futures. Industries were built and maintained through the subjugation of black people in this country, and wealth was built and maintained through the discriminatory policies that still plague us to this day. And to be clear, some people directly benefited from it or are direct beneficiaries of it. We have systems that create and perpetuate imbalances and balances in our society, and you either benefit from it or you are disenfranchised by it. And black people continue to be disenfranchised and harmed by these systems. Others receive advantages from it. So
it's all performative, man. It's all an act, man. It's all performative. They don't care. They don't care about you. They really don't. They don't care about black people. They don't care about the black vote. They really don't. They care to get your vote, but they don't actually care about you. They just pretend to, so they can get their 7 seconds of fame and keep you, in that same loop. They ignore the fact that almost everyone was enslaved at some point in history. And to be honest with you, it's still happening in Africa right now. There is still slavery on the continent of Africa right now. There's some slavery going on in some of these Arab nations right now. Just saying. There is a list of people who have found themselves enslaved on this planet. And slavery, I mean, it's a global stain. It's not just an American one. It isn't. But the Democrats want to single out America to stoke fear, to race bait, to make us hate each other. That's what this is about. And what happens if you trace it back, you trace your lineage back, and you find out that, hey, not only, yeah, your people are black, but they were actually plantation owners. What happens if you find that out? You know, are you also on the hook to pay? Because we know in South Carolina, North Carolina, Virginia, we know this. Anthony Johnson, you know, the first slave owner, black man in America. I mean, we know it's awful. We know it was. We know that America has a past that, you know, it would, you know, give the nation a black eye. It has a past, you know, and every nation has a past that's probably got some unsavory things in this country. You know, it definitely was awful. You know, slavery is evil. I think that goes without saying. You know, it goes against, you know, everything, you know, that we would believe in. But why on purpose hurt people who had nothing to do with it? You know, especially when you're talking about in 2025, when we have so many people, you know, that have come over in this country in the late 1900s or so, or early mid 1900s, you know, after the fact. And there were companies that benefited. And I think some of those companies, they've been called out and they are, you know, attempting to do some things. I mean, Democrats have had a plethora of opportunities to do something, and they chose not to do it. There's been multiple Democrat leaders that when they've had opportunity, they've actually had bills come to their desk. I mean, here in Maryland, our mayor, black guy, he decided against it. Seriously. He decided against it. He vetoed the bill without any thought. I mean, oh man, there are some things that need to shake, you know, in this country. But listening to these Democrats, you know, every couple of years when they feel like, you know, they're starting to lose their grip, you know, on the black vote, you know, in this country, this is where they go. They don't have any actual intent on doing anything. And then you have a lot of folks that they get in a tizzy behind it because they feel like they're owed something. And a lot of times, you know, when people feel like they're owed something, they won't actually work because they feel like y'all supposed to give me something. And I went through, you know, a list of things that need to be done. And the reality of it is that money is not going to solve those problems that I mentioned earlier. It's just not. So you got a lot of folks out there, you know, that you know, will go out there and say, hey, this has to happen. This has to happen. It's not. We just had the Biden-Harris administration in. They showed you where their allegiance is. Over these past 4 or 5 months, you know, that Trump's been in office, the Democrats have shown you who their allegiance is with. The new voter bloc. They've showed you. I refuse to buy into it, though, man. I refuse to buy into it. I refuse to buy into, you know, these people, you know, trying to implement things that divide the country. I refuse to buy into it. That we know that they have no intent on actually doing. Seriously, they have zero intent on doing this. Y'all know it. And you got more and more people listening to this, and they're just like, man, they full of it. Now, I'm more in line with the ideas of, enacting, some federal programs that will pay for some vocational training, that will pay for community college scholarships, apprenticeships for low-income students. I'm all about that, regardless of race. Regardless of race. You know what I'm saying? I want to see people, pull themselves, up out of these situations. But a lot of it is here. It's what's between the ears. There's a lot of mental blocks out there. Freeman's Network says, with the $5 super chat, he says, why did you know better than what you're saying, that Wes Moore is a tether from Jamaica, so of course he vetoed. I didn't realize that he was of Jamaican heritage. I didn't realize that. So, but what about Summer Lee? I don't know what her background is, or Ayanna Presley. I don't know what their background, but that they don't. Come on, bro. They have zero intent on doing this. This. It's not going to happen. It's not going to happen. I know there's a lot of people, that make a lot of money on, getting people riled up about it, but I don't see it. I don't see it happening. I find it funny that soon as their numbers start to get low, soon as they start to think that, hey, Black people are starting to, move away from the Democrat plantation. Hey, here comes this reparations bill that we can study that they know ain't going nowhere. They can't even pass a study. They've been talking about this since the 80s. We're in 2025. Almost my entire life they've been talking about this, man. Now, there are some things that I do think that need to be done. One of the things that I would like to see, I'd like to see every government contract tied to training. There has to have a training provision within the government contract that states that you have to train 10%, of the workforce that's going to be a part of this government contract. And we need people that come from, maybe some low income environments, things of that nature, so they can get these skills, so they can pull themselves up. And natural beauty, I agree. You get no argument from me there. You get no argument from me there. They literally gave, Ukraine, how much? They've given illegal immigrants how much? And they don't have any intent on actually doing anything. I'd like to see, them massively, expand broadband in their inner city, so that entrepreneurs, can start tech firms, from their homes. Let's reform some of these occupational licenses so that barbers and beauticians and nail technicians aren't saddled with endless red tape just so they can, get into a skill and start businesses. In my opinion, those are the things that need to be done that will repair some of these broken communities. I also think that that there are some things. There's a mindset shift that needs to happen. Seriously, there is a mindset, because the reality of it is this: even if, let's say, for instance, they cut a check, I don't know what that number would be, but let's say it's $200,000 or $300,000, a piece. Some people will say, hey, at least they got the bread. How many of those folks do you believe would not have any money 2 months, 3 months, 6 months down the line? Or maybe they used the money, they took out loans, and now they got to file bankruptcy, so forth and so on. There are some things that need to happen. But these are Democrat strongholds, and they don't have any intent. They don't have any interest of repairing some of these inner city communities. They don't have any interest in doing that other than gentrifying those neighborhoods, and moving the poor people that are in those neighborhoods elsewhere. But we'll see. Y'all know it ain't going nowhere. Y'all know it ain't going nowhere. This reparation talk that you get, every year, every other year, the one time that they had power to do so, the party that keeps talking about doing it, the one time that they did have all the power to do so, there was never a conversation. So, the reparation talk, honestly, man, it's about power. It's about power, for these Democrats to get folks up in a tizzy. It's about power and divide. That's really what it's about. Keep the masses divided so they don't see exactly or pay attention to what they got going on for real. And, keep the masses in a tizzy thinking that they're going to get something that they know ain't going to happen. I highly doubt it, though. We'll see. We shall see. But what we do know is that what we're seeing from the Ayanna Presleys, what we're seeing from the Summer Lees and some of these other folks out there, it's just a hustle, man. This is the hustle. This is the hustle. This is the reparation hustle that you're gonna get. There's a lot of people that make a lot of money off of this. They do. It's a hustle. And it's a way to divide, and it's also a way to get people up in a tizzy. That's really what it's about. It's a hustle. Because y'all know they don't have any interest in doing anything. Y'all know this. Y'all know it. It's just a hustle, man. We've seen it in too many states. We've seen this happen in too many states. You see what they did out in Cali? Got the bill through, people in there, arguing and carrying on. And the next thing you know, the bill gets to the governor's desk, gone. But I would like to see, I'd like to see us pressure the representatives to deliver policies that expand free markets, reform our schools. Let's get rid of, these kids being blocked or locked into these schools that aren't functioning. I'd like to see that. I'd like to see some school choice where the parents actually have a play a role in their children's education. They get to choose where their children go to school at. I'd like to see us strengthen, family formation. I'd like to see us investing in ourselves, in our spouses and our children. Because the reality of it is this, Booker T. Washington talked about this, man, way back when. And he was 100% on it. Building wealth from the ground up, with the skills, in the neighborhoods, we don't need Washington. We don't. We have the ability to be our own reparations. We have the ability to do that. It's not a situation where Black people don't really have money. Thank you, Mr. Jerry Hargett, for the $10 super chat. He says, where do I fit? Half Mexican, 33%, Native American on mom's side, dad's side, 7th great grandfather was a slave owner who laid out the city of Raleigh. I don't want to check ludicrous freedom. Thank you, Mr. Jerry, for the $10 super chat. But I think going the route of Booker T. Washington and what he laid out in the late 1800s, I think that would have put us in a position where nobody could take, what we've been able to achieve, at that point, if we had we taken that, and kind of ran with it. We've kind of gotten away from it, which I also think that, it is something that could be done now, but I know a lot of folks get in their feelings, when it comes to this reparation talk. And I'm not even one here to say that there was never a debt or whatever the case may be. But when you think about it in the grand scheme of things, this is a conversation that's been going on almost my entire lifetime. And what we do know is that there is zero interest in making it happen. And what we also know is that the Democrats, they use it as a tool, to get folks back in line with them. They have zero intent on doing anything. And I think you guys know this. So I choose not to focus on it. I choose not to even worry about it. Because it ain't going to happen. And Dr. Silly, you're absolutely right. The reform, to reform education, to repair families, and honestly, mindset, and a repair of culture, I think is extremely important, man. What does that mean, street translations? What does that mean? Shout out to Jeff with the $11 super chat. Says affirmative action and welfare program started by LBJ have paid that debt back 100-fold. Putting fathers back in the family will do more than any handout would. Okay, that's a lot to unpack. When you think about affirmative action, I think we all know this. I think more white women actually benefited from affirmative action. The welfare programs, we know what those numbers are. I do agree that, putting fathers back in the family, incentivizing families, incentivizing people to have children within the nuclear family environment, I think that would do wonders, for the community. I definitely think that would be the case. I don't know if the affirmative action or welfare programs, pay that debt back, 100-fold due to the fact that everybody has the ability. And when you really look at the numbers, there's more of others than Black people on, either one of those, things. But yeah, that we do know. All right, that's the show for today, folks. That is the show for today, folks. But hey, Democrats are going to do what they do. They're going to continue to put this out, and this won't be the last time that we will hear them, do this when their numbers start to fail or they feel like they're in trouble or they're, losing grip, on the Black population. They're obviously sending out their Black folks to Black churches now. Jasmine Crockett was at a church, Black church, telling Black folks, y'all got to get on board. Jim Clyburn was at a black church down in South Carolina telling folks, y'all need to get on board. They don't have anything tangible to offer, right? No actual policies, no anything, just y'all got to get on board. Simple as that, but and every time we talk about, the reparation talk, it's touchy. And I know, a lot of people, feel one way or another about it. I don't necessarily, care, agree or disagree. I think there are some things that do need to be things that need to change. But I do think the number one thing that needs to happen, Street Translation said the black church has always been on board, and everyone else isn't. Been on board with what? I think in some cases, the black church has been, more of a detriment, to the black community than they've been, a help, in reality, especially when you think about the Iron Triangle and what they've pushed. But I appreciate you guys pulling up this morning, man. Thank you guys for the super chats. I definitely appreciate that as well. It's good to have these types of conversations, from time to time, but yeah. Street ages, did I say that right? Yeah, Street Translation. Sorry about that, bro. You're absolutely right there, man. You get no argument from me, on that. They are pretty much, yeah, you said they are agents in a way. I think they are agents in almost every way. There is a small subset, unfortunately, a small subset of black preachers out there that are not in lockstep with the DNC. They are few and far between. I don't think you will find them at your mega churches or anything along those lines, though. And that's unfortunate. It really is. It's unfortunate. It really is. Because, the reality of it is, honestly, if the black church was on its job, they would be talking about how important the family is in these communities where they sit. They would be talking about how important the nuclear family is, and they would be pushing it. And you would hear more and more preachers. Where are the books written about it? How important that is. I just don't see it. You see books written about all kinds of things, from a lot of these pastors, but you just don't see those books written about how important, getting the family back together, raising your children, in a nuclear family, and what that looks like and what that would do, for your lineage. There's no interest there, but they're all about telling you the government gonna save you. The government is going to save you. How, okay. I'll give you that, Aaron. I'll give you that. We don't have to agree. But I would like to know, I'd like to know, how is, even if a reparation check was cut, what would that do for the culture, in a lot of these communities? What would it do would it change the culture? Would it change the amount of out of wedlock births? Would it change the amount of pregnancy terminations? Would it do that? Would it get people to change their mind about an education? Would it do that? I don't think it would. Would it change the hearts and minds of people? Natural beauty, I don't necessarily agree with that. I think I understand it. And some of the things that I've seen, over in South Africa, when they're, calling for chanting and, about killing some of these folks. And, they have, killed a number of them, over there. But I don't necessarily, I don't necessarily agree with it. It's in contradiction to some of the other moves, that are made. And I'm not here to sit here and say that, hey, we 100% agree with everything, that an individual does. And I also don't think that, people are perfect. And people are going to do some things that we don't necessarily, agree with. Now, some folks will say, well, it's only 50 people. I think maybe the number was 49 or either 59. I can't remember exactly how many. But I can't say that I absolutely agree, with that. Well, I mean, I'd like to know. I mean, do you think that a number, any particular number, do you think that would change things in the community? I don't even know if the folks would actually leave. Ah, man. I'm getting out of here, man. I appreciate y'all pulling up. Agree or disagree. I like it. It's one of those subjects that it's always going to divide. You're going to have people that feel one way or another about it. And it is what it is. But it is a conversation that will be had 10 years from now, 20 years from now, probably 50 years from now. And, people will still be, it'll be used, as a way to continue to divide and as a way, as a carrot, for others. But I do appreciate you guys, man. I appreciate the super chats. I appreciate the love, as well. Appreciate you all pulling up this morning. Hope you guys have a great week and enjoy the day, this Monday, this fine Monday. I hope you guys enjoy it. Keep God first, stay prayed up. We'll catch up with you all. Peace.
Vibes so raw, can't hide the truth. Words so sharp,